All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Carolyn Holden, and welcome back to Swift Start Go's podcast. And today I am so excited to introduce you to a dear friend of mine and actually my old boss. We have Luke Roquet here, formerly my boss at Datavolo, which just sold to Snowflake in November. Luke, could you please introduce yourself to our audience and let them know who you are, what your experience is, and maybe a little bit of what you're doing now at Snowflake?
Yeah, thanks, Carolyn. Super excited to be here. So, just a little context of myself. I've been in the data and analytics space most of my career, but that spanned different roles. I was a sales engineer, I was a programmer, I got into sales at one point, sales leadership, ran marketing for a while, and then started Datavolo. So, it's been a long journey wearing a lot of different hats, but all kind of centered around one thing, which is helping customers solve business problems, primarily in the world of data and analytics.
Awesome, awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit more about Datavolo, what it was, what you were doing, and maybe a little bit about why you started it with Joe?
Yeah. So, it's an interesting time. The chat GPT came on the scene, and I guess it would be late 2022. And frankly, got really excited. Like the generative AI thing, it really motivated me. It spurred me on. I wanted to be in that space. At the time, I was running marketing at Cloudera, but I decided I want to be in the AI space. And so I was looking for what that meant, that what that looked like, where I could make an impact, and happened to start talking to Joe and Joe was like, "Look, Luke, generative AI is really about how do we harness all this unstructured data." And Joe had created a technology, an open source technology, while he was at the NSA, the National Security Agency, that was built for harnessing unstructured data. And so, but I told Joe, I said, "Look, I've been in this data space for a long time. Data movement, data pipelines is a crowded space. There's countless vendors in that space, the Fivetrans, the Matillions, Informaticas, Confluence, etc. And how are we going to differentiate?" And what Joe told me, which really opened my eyes and changed the game, and frankly, the reason we started Datavolo was that none of those companies were built to move arbitrarily large data. And that's what generative AI was all about. So you have all these tools that are really good at moving high volumes of small structured data, but we need to solve a new problem that no one else had solved for, which is how do you move, files, data that are petabytes in size, right? Certainly hundreds of terabytes. And that's what Joe had created an i5 for at the NSA. So we had the right technology, we had the right team. We had Joe, who's run engineering orgs, has been living in this data movement space for decades. Myself, we've been doing sales and marketing for a long time. So it was just the right time, the right market moment, and the right technology.
Very cool. Can you talk a little bit more about what unstructured data is in case anybody in our audience is a little bit unfamiliar?
Yeah, so enterprises today are very familiar and very good at dealing with structured data. Structured data, think of rows and columns of data, data that has, if you think of like the data in an Excel spreadsheet, that is really, delimited into rows, columns, cells of highly structured, semantic, described data. Unstructured data is things like documents, audio files, video files, binary files, all of this data that is frankly 90% of the world's data, but historically we've never done anything with because it's really hard. As humans, we can look at a document and understand the inherent structure or context around the document. But if you just fed a document, a PDF file to a database like Oracle or SQL Server, it wouldn't have any idea what to do with it. So generative AI gave you this new ability for models that were built to understand natural language and understand human language to then be able to go process and make sense of all of this other type of data that historically we couldn't do anything with.
So how did you get started? It sounds like you and Joe had the idea. We're talking about how there was a major gap in the market with trying to figure out how can we use way more unstructured data in these AI systems, which is what they're based on.
Yeah.
But what were the first steps that you guys took, and what was like the big moment that you guys realized that this was going to work?
Yeah, I think the first step is we needed a team. Like Joe and I couldn't do this on our own. We're not in a position where we were gonna bootstrap it and couch surf, right? Joe and I both have families to support and lives to support. So we needed to take investment. And that investment was strategic for a number of reasons. One, it allowed us to go hire the team we wanted, the team that we needed to build this company. Uh, and two, it also gave us an investor who gave us credibility, gave us guidance, did introductions for us. And so, we talked to some investors, quickly landed on General Catalyst, who's a tier one investment firm. And Quentin Clark, who joined our board and was our lead investor, was extremely impactful and helpful for us in terms of how did we set up the company in the right way? How do we structure it in such a way that we were primed for growth, that we were primed to pick up other investors, other customers? And so having the right investor early made a really important difference, because then a month after our company started, we hired 15 people, right? It's unheard of, but it's because we already had a network of folks that we knew were the core that we needed to build this company. And we were able to hire them very, very fast because of our networks, our relationships, and then importantly, an investor who backed us and gave us the financial wherewithal to be an established company.
Because hadn't most of the team worked together for nearly 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these folks have been working on NiFi and the open source community since it was created in 2006. So
Wow.
the engineers have been working together, working with Joe for a very long time. If you looked at the people on the sales and marketing side, you were a welcome new addition. But a lot of the folks on my team had worked for me at 3 or 4 companies. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of history that a team that knew each other, that trusted each other, and they were able to bring in excellent people from like yourself from outside the family.
And what were the biggest problems Datavolo was solving for clients? Like, what were the types of, like, by using Datavolo, what were they able to accomplish?
Yeah, so it really, again, was about the continuous ingestion of unstructured data from wherever it lived. So whether that was, we had a customer who was taking pictures of signed documents, insurance cards, et cetera, from a cell phone and then emailing them, right? It might be pulling data from SharePoint or from Google Drive or from OneDrive. But the ability to go extract and capture unstructured data from anywhere it was being created, do the processing, and then prep it in such a way that it could be consumed by the AI systems. And that was a very big piece, is that and this was frankly new to the open source stack, is that we had to go build the AI systems ourselves to do the open source project could do the extraction, the processing, the movement, the delivery, but it didn't have the understanding of how do I do parsing of documents? How do I do chunking? How do I do embedding? So we had to go build that IP to do the processing such that it could be consumed by a Cortex AI from Snowflake or an OpenAI or an Anthropic. So all of that work to make unstructured data consumable was a big part of the value add IP that we brought to the table.
Yeah. And I remember data governance was a massive part of that, right?
Yeah, and that's what was awesome about that is that was table stakes for us, right? So Apache NiFi, which the team had built at the NSA, obviously being the NSA, they care a lot about security and governance, audit, lineage. So part and parcel to everything we did was that security, which was frankly another big differentiator for us, because when you look at and you think of startups, typically they lack in things like governance, security, the kind of the enterprise abilities that big corporations expect. Startups typically lack those things. And so, one of our customers, a major bank, it was kind of funny where they put us through a security scan on Datavolo, and it came back with no vulnerabilities. And the CISO is like, I've been here 17 years. That's never happened. There was a mistake. Run it again. They ran it again. They ran it 4 times. No vulnerabilities. Then they were like, all right, maybe it's the way it's bundled. So they broke it up into different pieces, ran all the pieces separately. They all passed. And the CISO's like, the chief security officer's like, I've never seen this before. But that's because our heritage has been building technology that security, governance, privacy is added the core central foundation. And off the bat, one of our first hires was a security officer for the company. Like, we were very, very focused to make sure that we were going to meet the needs of enterprises, not just startups.
And it makes sense that a team that was, originated originally from the NSA is going to be really stellar at security too.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of a cheat code, maybe. Let's pivot a little bit to, we talked about starting to build Datavolo. What was it like kind of getting into the mess, like when things were really rolling? And when did Snowflake enter the picture?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. So there, I would say fundamentally, people ask about how many pivots do you have to do? We never really pivoted. We kind of picked our message from the start. That message held true to the end. Uh, but what we did kind of pivot on were kind of core theses of how the market would shape up. So one of our first theses was that, well, one of our very foundational ones, which remains true to this day, is that where data is originated, where data is created, and where data is consumed will always be two different places. So you will always need to get data from creation point to consumption point. That thesis will hold true to the end of time. But one of the theses we had around generative AI is that it would demand an entirely new tech stack. And so we were going to be the data movement part of that tech stack. But then vector databases would be the data storage piece. And then you have the LLMs. And so it's going to be this brand new kind of tech stack for doing generative AI. That turned out to be, in our opinion, something that was not going to be true. So what we saw more and more is that customers were wanting to bring AI to their data where it already existed today. They didn't want to build yet another data platform. Mm-hmm. So they already had their Snowflake and they had their Databricks and their Cloudera and whomever else, right? Their cloud service providers. And they just wanted to do AI where the data lived. And so what we realized at Datavolo is, all right, we need to not only partner with the vector database companies of the world, the kind of new and up and comers, but also we need to go partner with the large data platforms.
Yeah.
So we started going and reaching out to them. You know, we were in the startup accelerator programs at Google and Amazon. We were in talks at Azure. We were working with Databricks. We were partnered with Databricks, working with Snowflake. And as we work with Snowflake, Snowflake really understood what this meant for their customers. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, hey, we'd like to look at this as like the de facto solution for our customers to do ingestion of unstructured data into Snowflake. But we realized at Datavolo, we were too small to effectively service Snowflake. If Snowflake was all in on Datavolo, we weren't big enough to be all in for Snowflake. So we decided as part of this partnership effort is that, hey, we're going to need to raise some money so we can hire a team to go actually support these motions. And Snowflake was interested in investing. So we started having those conversations. And then during the due diligence of that investing process, as they pulled back the covers on the technology, they realized, actually, this could do a lot more than what Datavolo is marketing for, right? There's all these other things it could do that we intentionally chose to not lean into because we were a small startup trying to carve our niche. But to somebody, a platform company like Snowflake, there's a lot more value, right? The ability, for example, to do streaming ingest from Kafka into Snowflake at gigabytes a second, right? That's a fundamental feature for us that we didn't lean into. Snowflake saw a lot of value in. So during that process, they were like, hey, we think there's actually a lot more value than just what Datavolo is marketing. Would you guys be open to acquisition? And through that process, as a startup founder, you have to think about it. Like, is this a company I want to go work at? Right? Like, so they want to buy us. And we had other companies try to buy us that frankly, we were not interested in going to work for.
But during
during this process, though, we were working with the Snowflake executive team and product team and engineering team, the sales folks we were working with. And frankly, we just really enjoyed everyone we were working with and thought this could be a place where we felt like their tech stack, we had done the integration with Cortex AI. We felt like their tech stack was super strong. We really loved the vision of Sridhar, their CEO, really loved all the product, sales, engineering people we were working with. It just felt like this was a place where the technology could take off exponentially. And so we decided, yep, we're open to acquisition. Let's figure out what that looks like in a way that makes sense for us and for all of our employees and for Snowflake. And happy to say we got to that point and got to exit. But at the end of the day, it was really about the synergies that we felt could come to the market by being part of that team with Snowflake. And what's been really awesome too is Snowflake has embraced a lot of things about Datavolo that are somewhat new to Snowflake. So, historically, people think of Snowflake as a proprietary data warehouse platform, cloud data warehouse platform. Mm-hmm. Datavolo was totally built on open source. But Snowflake has been making a shift towards open source. So you've seen all the investment and announcements they've made around Apache Iceberg, about Polaris catalog and open sourcing that. And with the acquisition of Datavolo, they're maintaining support for the open source work that we're doing in NiFi. So they're going to continue to contribute and develop and give back to that community. Mm-hmm. Another big part of Datavolo's architecture was to embrace the reality that customers' data states are hybrid, that they have data in different clouds. They have data on-prem. They have data in public cloud. Snowflake is embracing that as well. So embracing the fact that data lives in different places and how do we help our customers manage a hybrid data state. So Snowflake has been very accommodating, excited about our vision, merging that vision with their vision. And frankly, it's just a great fit for all of us.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, especially because a lot of the times when you are working with bigger established companies, they tend to not want to move in certain ways or not want to adapt. And it sounds like Snowflake's culture is shifting when it comes to just how they manage their data and what tools they want to use and like where they see the future heading. Do you think that's correct?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that Snowflake has made a big embrace of open standards, of things like Iceberg, of letting not having to put all your data into Snowflake to run analytics with Snowflake, right? The ability to do open integrations like with Datavolo, but run it wherever the customer wants to run it in their VPCs or in the cloud. So there's a ton of kind of new patterns and paradigms that Snowflake is embracing with open arms, and frankly, really excited to be part of that journey with them.
Okay. Well, my next question, let's take a moment to look back a little bit. So it's been a little bit over a year now, like a year and a half, since starting Datavolo, yeah?
Yeah, we started it in October of 2023. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So looking back, is there anything that you wish you knew on day one, or maybe alternatively, is there anything that you wish you had done that you were never able to do?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, it's hard to say because it was really only a year,
I
right?
know.
But we so much of work and so much of life is really about the people that you surround yourself with. And so I consider myself very fortunate to have had a founding team, folks like yourself, that was just a pleasure to work with, and that we could do great work because we hired great people, super talented people, but also people that are a pleasure to spend time with and to talk to and hang out with. And so, really, really thankful that we were able to do this journey with people that we enjoy, that we like, that were very talented, that could raise the bar and do incredible things. Uh, I don't have a lot of things that we would do different or lessons learned because, frankly, we were very fortunate. We had the right team, right tech, right place, right market, right founders, right acquirer, right. We had the right investors. We had a lot of things went right for us, which that doesn't happen for all startups. But very blessed to be in the situation that we were in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love how your response to is there anything you would have done different was like, no, we were perfect. Why? We got an A plus plus. Like there was no room for improvement. We know other people have problems, but here at Data Bolo, nah,
Yeah,
we don't.
not my intended message. Not my intended message. My intended message is one of gratitude, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, it's there's a lot of things that have to come together for a startup to be successful, and thankfully those things came together for us. It's interesting that there's a book. I'm just going to draw a blank on it right now, but that talks about kind of what it takes to be really successful, kind of in life and in specialties. And one of the things they talked about with regard to startups is that despite the fact that all the kind of hype is around the young startups out of Stanford MBA programs that start massive companies and they're 25 years old. If you take the data on the whole, the most successful startups are by people that start companies in their young 40s,
yeah,
which Joe and I both happen to be, right? So you have world experience, you have enterprise experience, and you're bringing that all to bear. That you're not creating tech just for creating tech's sake.
yeah,
You're creating tech because you realize that there are problems in the market that you need to solve, and that you have tech that can solve it. So you're creating things with outcomes in mind, outcomes for your customers, your employees, your partners. So there is a mindset that comes with doing this at a slightly more advanced stage than the Stanford MBA grads.
Speaking of Stanford MBA grads or people who are not Stanford MBA grads, there's a lot of people right now who are job hunting, and there's a lot of people right now who are really interested in the AI space in particular. Do you have any advice for them? What things you think they should be reading or learning or trying or experimenting with, or people they should try to be talking to? What should people be thinking about as they're approaching the job market right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. At the end of the day, so I've got one of my oldest daughters in MBA school at Carlson School of Business at University of Minnesota, and she asked me this yesterday. She said, "Dad, I was in marketing class, and they were saying the AI is going to take all the marketing jobs. Like, I'm concerned for my future." And look, at the end of the day, the people that are going to be most successful, whether it's in marketing, business, sales, doesn't matter. People that are going to be most successful in the future world are people that know how to harness AI themselves.
Mhm.
And so, what I would say is that the interest in AI, there's lots of levels to it, but the starting point is everyone needs to understand how they can use AI to be more productive in their lives, in their work professionally. So, go play with Claude from Anthropic, play with ChatGPT, like understand how it can help you become a more effective worker, a more efficient worker, because those are the people that will really be successful in the future. So, understand how you can harness it, first of all, and then find companies that are committed to making an impact around AI. And that impact, as I say it, it sounds like social impact, and that could be one great use case, or something you're passionate about. I was talking to somebody the other day that's founding a startup around dementia care with
Yeah.
AI models, right? So that's an awesome thing to get into. But there's a lot of companies that are building, especially a lot of startups in the AI space, that are building tech for tech's sake, and I would caution to stay away from those. Right? You need to look at companies that are they're on the AI wagon not just for fundraising or for hype cycles, but because they have a vision for how it can improve lives, improve effectiveness, improve businesses, and then align yourself to those companies. But it starts with recognizing, not fearing AI because it's here to stay, being fearful of it's not going to do anything, but how can you harness it to make yourself more powerful, more effective at the things that you do in your life and in business.
So, what advice do you have for founders? Anybody who's we kind of covered this a little bit,
Yeah.
but is there anything that you want to add when it comes to founders, either in
Yeah,
this
I think there's a
space?
couple things. So one that again, very, very thankful for is you need to have the right co-founder. So I would not encourage doing this alone. I encourage doing it with a partner or more. And finding that person that you're on the same page with, that you can have tough conversations with respectfully, knowing that you care about each other, care about the outcome. Having that right partner is critical, and Joe was that right partner. Joe and I were a tremendous team that we could be direct, we could be substantive, but we were always marching towards the same goal and on the same page. So the right founding team or partner is super, super important. But I think just as important is make sure that what you're building solves real world problems.
Yeah.
I see so many companies that are, especially like this agentic AI space, right? You guys saw your post the other day. There's hundreds of agentic AI companies. I can't tell what 99% of them do.
Yeah.
Like, just because you can build an agentic AI company uh, doesn't mean anything. You don't. That's not a business. Like, you need to have a problem, a niche problem that you solve, that only you solve, or that you solve in a way that no one else can solve it in that way, and go after that. So make sure you're solving a material business problem. I would say is number two, and then number three. Once you've got the right founder, you've got the right vision and problem to go solve. Getting that founding team is absolutely critical. So the right people to go build out and get the company running, and that, I think that starts now. Like, if you want to start a company 10 years from now, you should start now in terms of building your network to make sure that you've got the right folks to hire at the right time so you can go deliver on the mission that you're trying to build to.
Do you have any thoughts on funding that could be helpful for founders? I wonder if we differ on this actually, because I personally think a lot of founders try to get funding too early, but you guys kind of had a total got funding immediately and then sold immediately. So
Yeah.
now you have me questioning like my entire thought process on how startups exist and work. So
I think
curious.
it depends on stage of life and what you're trying to accomplish. So in our case, we knew acutely what we wanted to solve. We knew time was of the essence because this will become a problem someone solves. And we knew that we had the team to build it, but we didn't have the money to hire them. So for us, raising money was critically important. Now, for a lot of founders, they have an idea of a problem they want to solve, uh, but they need to prototype, they need to test it, they need to validate these things, and that takes time, and you just kind of dilute yourself if you take money right away. So I think it is on a case by case basis. But when you really want to scale, and especially if you want to sell to the enterprise, having a tier one venture capital firm behind you is extremely helpful.
Yeah.
So it's credibility, it's open doors, it's relationships that you might not otherwise have in yourself that helps a lot. But if you, and the other big, really big difference I should say with Datavolo is we already had an open source project to base on,
Yeah.
that the foundation was there, it was solid, it worked. There's thousands of companies, literally 8 to 10,000 companies that run the open source project. That foundation was solid. For a lot of folks starting a company, they're not in that situation. They've got to go develop the software. So that bootstrapping might take more time before you raise, because if you raise without a good business case and without a good pitch deck, you could end up diluting yourself far more than you really need to.
Well, what are you excited for now that you're at Snowflake as what is it, the VP Global Sales?
Yeah, so I'm essentially running the global sales overlay function. It's a new function at Snowflake. We're building out a specialist org for AI, for data collaboration, for data engineering, for the Datavolo product line. So I'm building out kind of the specialty sales org. But no, look, what I'm excited about is I love making an impact. And so you've heard me talk about this many times, but I was at Hortonworks in the early days of big data. And the reason I wanted to be there is because I felt like big data was going to be able to solve problems we could never solve before, because now you could harness all of your data, unstructured, semi-structured, structured. And unfortunately, Hadoop never really fully got there. And I think generative AI gives us the promise to actually be able to deliver on the promise of Hadoop a decade ago. And so I'm really, really excited to see the maturation of these models, whether it's LLMs or SLMs or FLMs. I'm excited to see the efficacy and the improvements of these models. And I'm excited to see how organizations and individuals are going to take advantage of AI in ways to dramatically improve life, improve business. Like, one of the things that personally I'm super interested in is, you've heard of the notion of personalized medicine, but
Yeah.
even like a whole personalized diet, right? Like I would love nothing more than to know, based on my genome
Yeah.
or gut bacteria or whatever the other factors, right? Like an AI algorithm says, Luke, here's what you should be eating, right? So the
Mhm.
idea of personalized medicine, personalized diet, personalized everything based on these large algorithms is something that personally excites me. But I think there's going to be countless things that are on the horizon with the advent of AI and be able to now harness all of this data that previously we couldn't do anything with.
Absolutely. I think personalized medicine is something that I'm particularly excited about. And that's something that we should have in future episodes that are coming up. Now, before I let you go, I'm gonna just ask you one more question that wasn't on the list, but don't worry, it's not a scary one. I'm curious. A lot of what this YouTube show and this podcast show are all about that I'm working on is what are ways that people can be using AI on a daily basis. What are tools that people are actually using that actually work well that can make a difference in your life? So I'm curious, how are you using AI at work or at home? What is your tech stack at the moment?
Yeah, so we, at Snowflake, we have a partnership with Anthropic. So I've been playing around a lot lately with the Claude models. And look, the way that I've used AI is to, in a daily basis, is to like help me get started with things. So
Mhm.
one thing that once a ball is rolling, it's easy for me to like course correct it and get things moving.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes really hard for me to like just get something started. Like I'll just
Yeah.
sit here, but like I know I need to do something. I just can't get started. Once I get started, I can fly through it. But I'm using AI a lot. Specifically, I'm using Cortex AI from Snowflake to go say, hey, I need to put together a go-to-market plan around an AI specialist org map to this industry. Where should I start? Right. So get the bones of a plan, the bones of an email, the bones of a one pager, like the one pagers I created at Datavolo. We all start with AI. So for me, it's a starting point. It's a jumping off point that helps me then accelerate to where I'm really good at is once the framework is there and we start rolling, how do we accelerate it? That's what I personally am good at. So I use AI to help me with the parts I'm not good at, which is getting things started.
Well, Luke, thank you so much for joining us. I could talk to you for hours, as you know, because we've done that before. Don't be a stranger. I'm so glad you wore your Datavolo sweater. And thanks again for just the adventure of a lifetime. Selling a startup in 4 months, not something I've done before. So I'm very excited that that's my new calling card in all of my adventures. Thank you so much. And I hope you're having a fantastic day. And thank you, everybody, for watching. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. And also check out my YouTube channel as well. The link is going to be wherever it is that you're listening to this. My new YouTube show, Swift Start Go, is covering all of the latest different AI tools, reviewing them and seeing how you can use them on a day-to-day basis to try to give you ideas on how you can incorporate AI into your day-to-day life and to make it just a little bit less scary. So if you're interested in that, please check out those shows or subscribe here for more, where we are talking to industry leaders in the AI space who are just absolutely killing it. So thanks so much again, Luke.
Thanks, Carolyn. Pleasure.
All right, bye.